Welcome to Studio 5. From YouTube to stages across the country, the Cimorelli sisters are joining us this week. We've got a sneak peek at the new series, The Casagrandes, and best-selling author Sally Clarkson is here with a special new book. So let's get this show started with our weekly countdown of the 5 big stories in the world of uplifting entertainment. Here are the first 2.
At number 5.
So I saw your vision board. And the more crystallized the vision of that future you is, the more clear the steps to become that will become.
Ashton Kutcher creates a show to help young people dig out from a grave of student debt.
Calm down and making millions. Right now, we have to get into what's practical.
I just want to get out of debt, and I want your help.
That's a look at Going From Broke, hosted by Dan Rosenzweig, and now airing on Crackle.
Going from broke really is about the people who are already stuck in the system and how to help them take a positive, constructive next step. And we're really grateful for the opportunity to produce the show.
At number 4. A sneak peek at Kevin Sorbo's latest film, The Reliant. A story tackling themes of justice, mercy, and the right to bear arms.
It's a movie that deals with, what would you do to protect your family? That's what it comes down to. The Reliant title comes from self-reliance. It comes from, the reliance on God, the reliance on family, the reliance on faith, the reliance on hope, love, redemption, all those things.
It's in theaters nationwide for one night, Thursday, October 24th.
You're my boy.
That is a great start to this week's countdown. Number 3 is coming up in just a little bit. Get this, 6 sisters on a musical journey. It takes them from their home in California to stages across the country and now a new life in Music City, Nashville, Tennessee. And this all began with a YouTube video. For young girls, these inspirational women are the big sisters they desperately need. And they've written a new book titled Believe in You. All 6 sisters are taking a seat for this week's Studio 5 Sit Down.
Hey, I'm Christina.
I'm Catherine.
I'm Lisa.
I'm Amy.
I'm Lauren.
I'm Danny.
And we're Cimorelli. We are 6 sisters, ages 19 to 28, and we make music videos, original music, and other fun videos.
I've been watching you for some time. Can't stop staring at those ocean burning cities and napalm skies.
You guys have been doing this now in front of the world for 10 years, 2 before. How are you feeling? I mean, this is like super success to see this in the family.
Yeah, it is crazy that we just came up on 10 years. We kind of just realized that when we realized that was like our 10-year YouTube anniversary. We made this big 10-year video. And I mean, for me, being the oldest, I guess, I just sat back and, because they have been doing this since they were like kids, so I don't know if it hits them quite as hard, but I was like, wow, this is like all of my adult life. And I've had this career forever when some people are just kind of like starting theirs. We've had a lot of ups and downs, as you can imagine. Like, I mean, being in LA and now being in Nashville and originally in Sacramento, it's like big ups and then like downs, like big lulls where we're just burnt out, but then we would completely like recharge and build ourselves up and then just like almost like reinvent ourselves and like go out there again. So it's been pretty cool. It's been a pretty wild ride for all of us.
This is all so crazy. Everybody seems so famous.
What do all of you, even you being on the outside, what do you remember about when that YouTube video took off?
Oh man. I remember we went to get milkshakes to celebrate because we had like...
We did,
yeah.
We went to Nugget. It was your birthday.
We were freaking out because social media and YouTube was so new at that point. This is 2009. It wasn't like everyone was on YouTube. That wasn't the hugest thing at that point.
No.
So we were just like, we were the only people by far that we knew at all who were on YouTube. Now it's like, everyone has a YouTube channel, but we were freaking out over 20,000 views in the very beginning.
I just found a journal entry I wrote the other day, like from that time. And it was like, well, I guess my life is really about to change. Like this crazy thing happened. It was so weird.
Now, you do the YouTube video, someone in the UK actually sees it, you guys get a record deal, doing that for a few years, but then I read you got burnt out.
Yeah, our story is pretty crazy. So it was like everything took off immediately. We went on YouTube, the numbers just took off, we just kept going. We got our record deal, we went to LA, and we had all these opportunities. We worked with lots of huge names. We met so many celebrities. We went to so many crazy events, and it was pretty insane. We were there for how many years?
5.
5 years, and it was really exciting, but at the same time, we felt like, I think all of us kind of felt the same way, that our souls were just like deteriorating. We just felt really, really bad all the time. I remember I was having like a mental breakdown like every week by the end.
Every week we just be like, I'm quitting, I'm gonna be a realtor. I don't know what's gonna happen, like, I can't do this.
Because it was getting really hard to be in that environment where you're constantly comparing yourself, and it wasn't the best environment for us, just the people we were around. It just puts you in a weird mindset. So at one point our dad was like, you know, you guys could do all this without a label and without a manager. And we were like, I didn't believe we could. I don't know what you guys thought.
Oh, I was scared.
I was like, no.
I was like, why do you think that?
Yeah, I was like, no, we can't. But just hearing that my dad and then my mom, both of them like believing in us and saying like, you could do this without them, I think that gave us the confidence. We were like, okay, maybe we could. And then out of nowhere, we were renting a house and they were like, you need to get out. And in 30 days or something, we were like, oh my gosh. And then we randomly, the whole family decided we were gonna move to Nashville. Seemed like a good idea. Another music industry, but like a more like wholesome environment. So then we moved here and we kind of restarted like the process of being our own bosses and like leading everything on our own. So it was like, that was like part 2 of like a whole new journey, but like to our fans, we were still out there on YouTube, still doing everything, but it was something different where we got to go through it and like experiment with being in charge of your career 100%.
You say I am loved when I can't feel a thing. You say I am strong when I think I am weak.
And doing it the right way for all 6 of you, I get from watching you and from reading, it was also very important that you weren't just making music for making music. You wanted to make music that did something.
Yeah, we spent a large portion of the first part of our career. I mean, we were almost all like teenagers or early 20s, like young teens to early 20s. We were making music, but it wasn't like the music that we were putting out and stuff. It wasn't music that really meant anything to us. And we were doing these shows where we were covering all these songs and singing originals that didn't really feel like originals because we didn't really have that much of a hand in writing them, or we didn't quite connect with them. And it felt very empty. And it's like a really weird feeling to be on stage and you're like singing, but you don't really feel much. And you're like, what am I doing here?
Oh, I believe what you say of me. Oh, I believe.
Again, that new book is called Believe in You. It's available right now. The sisters are coming back in just a little bit and sharing portions of letters they wrote to their younger selves. Stay with us.
Still ahead.
One big house in our family store, food and laughter y mucho amor.
A new animated adventure from Nickelodeon and a man of many voices.
Sundays and Mondays, they're all fun days when you're with the Casa Grande.
Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep. as the world watches from the outside.
It's a big diplomatic tug of war here in the Middle East.
Go inside the story with Jerusalem Dateline.
Israeli archaeologists are talking about a discovery that could change the thinking about the Temple Mount.
Join CBN Jerusalem Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell and get the biblical perspective on the events shaping the world.
What starts in Israel then ends up going to other places.
Watch Jerusalem Dateline, Friday night at 9:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Hey, welcome back to Studio 5. The countdown of the 5 best stories in uplifting entertainment continues right now. We've made it to number 3.
At number 3.
A young girl has died of diphtheria. It's highly infectious and I have no antitoxin to fight it with.
After overcoming one tragedy, a man and his trusty pack of sled dogs travels hundreds of miles to get medicine for his town. It's a brave, true story.
The sea is frozen over. The ship couldn't get within 100 miles. We'll mush it in. Dog sled? You can't be serious. I can't lose secret.
It won't come to that. And Studio 5 is on the red carpet with first-time director Brian Presley, who also wrote and stars in The Great Alaskan Race, hitting American theaters this Friday.
Faith is a part of my life. You know, it's not a faith-based movie, but, you know, I really wanted to lay in the spiritual elements of the movie. To me, there was definitely a bigger hand that guided.
At number 2.
We're here to spread the gospel. I'm not here for your entertainment. I'm an evangelist.
That is the voice of rapper Kanye West, whose film, Jesus is King, is in IMAX theaters this Friday. This is a Studio 5 first look.
The time is fulfilled and the kingdom of God is at hand. Repent and believe in the gospel.
And that's going to leave us only one more story in this week's countdown. We will get to it in just a little bit. Television viewers know Carlos Alazraqui as Deputy James Garcia on the hit show Reno 911. But the man of many voices is lending his now to a new Nickelodeon animated series called The Casa Grandes. Carlos is joining us to talk about it, so while I grab a chair, take a look at The Casa Grandes.
All right, shred time's over, thief. I don't go. You, Carlos? You're the one using my skateboard?
I'm so sorry, Ronnie Ann. Ever since you moved in, I've gotten the itch to ride again.
But you? A skateboarder? No offense, but how?
It all started in college when I discovered that skateboarding was the most efficient method of getting around campus.
¡Qué guapo! Carlos X! Wow, Carlos X? This is really you?
And that's a quick look at the Casa Grandes. And joining us right now is one of the stars, Carlos Zaraki. So set the scene for us. Describe this animated family.
This animated family of the Casa Grandes is a wild menagerie of wonderful, multi-generational characters of a Mexican-American family living, growing, and having fun in the United States. It's a fictitious city which kind of blends Chicago and LA and New York. They live above a mercado, which is called their bodega, that they run. There's Ronnie Ann, there's her brother Bobby, there's her Tio Carlos, her Tia Maria, there's Tia Frida, there's her mom who's a nurse working at the hospital. There's crazy kids running around, there's abuelas, there's stories, there's a loud parrot that annoys everybody. It's just a wonderful story of everything that happens in a multi-generational family in the United States.
So what was it about the series that made you say yes to it?
I've always wanted to be part of anything that's done on Nickelodeon for sure. But when I saw like the artist renderings come back, the color palettes that they use, the talent that was involved, the stories that were being told, I wanted to do that. I didn't grow up in a multi-generational family, but I grew up in a family where my parents were from Argentina. My dad was British educated, so he didn't have his Argentine accent, but my mom did. And so when I would go to school, people would say, "Oh, your mom speaks funny." And I'd go, "I can understand my mom perfectly." She'd be like, "Carlos, you have to go to school, pero you need to bring your own books." And so Spanish words mixed in, like palita, fideos con manteca, which is spaghetti and butter, were what I grew up with. It was different to my American counterparts in school, but it was something I was used to. And so when I see a show that sort of emphasizes that, you know, this is a family that speaks Spanish and English at home and it's normal, I went, wait a minute, I sort of grew up with that part. I didn't have tios or tias and abuelos and abuelas in the house, but I did grow up in a multilingual, multicultural background, and that resonated with me, and I'm like, I'm down for this show because I lived it.
I love it. For people who may not be familiar with your face, they will certainly know the many voices you play. How did that begin for you?
My voice acting career began in 1991. I was a stand-up comedian along with guys like Rob Schneider and Tom Kenny in San Francisco. There was an audition for something called
Rocco's Modern Life. I went in, I did the right voice, the right time, and they liked him.
And I did Cat Dog, and I did Fairly Odd Parents, and all kinds of other cartoons. And that launched me into my voiceover career. And then I became more of an on-camera person with the Stephanie Miller Show on UPN. I did characters. And then Reno 911 came along around 2001. And I've blended both together. And it all started in 1991 with
Rocco's Modern Life.
I love it. So, of all your voice creations, do you have a favorite?
I think Rocco's always going to be my favorite because he was my first. On this show, even though I play Carlos and he's more of a lead role, and Sergio, who's crazy, I really like playing this character named Vito Filipponio because he's kind of a vagabond, you know. He's got a family somewhere. I mean, he has his dogs, and he's always walking around looking for abuelo. But it's like, hey, as long as there's something free at the bodega, I'll take that. I find him fascinating. So he's my new favorite.
I love it. Carlos Zaraki, thank you so much for your time. And, of course, the Casa Grandes on Nickelodeon. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. And watch the Casa Grandes. You're going to dig it. Families all across the country, every generational tier will love it. Kids to grandmas to uncles, you're going to love the show.
All right. Thank you.
Coming up.
At least some of the boys still want to fight.
Studio 5 travels to Hawaii for a behind-the-scenes look at this World War II action adventure.
On October 1st, 1961, history was made when a tiny station began transmitting the first signals of the Christian Broadcasting Network.
CBN, the Christian Broadcasting Network.
And now, a new era has begun with the all-new CBN News Channel.
Just moments ago, the Iron Dome intercepted an incoming rocket right on the Gaza border.
Administering in this area, spiritual warfare is definitely involved.
A 24/7 news network, bringing you the news you want from a source you can trust.
In Kenya, 40% of the medical services are actually provided by these Christian hospitals.
Let's talk about the economy.
Believers here are joining together to win people to Jesus Christ.
All your favorite shows now in one place. Go to CBNNewsChannel.com to find out how to get the CBN News Channel on your TV all day, every day. CBN News.
And welcome back to Studio 5. We have made it to the final headline in this week's countdown of the best in uplifting entertainment. Here it is. We are at number 1.
At number 1. It's a look behind the scenes and a Studio 5 first look at Midway.
Pearl Harbor is the greatest intelligence failure in American history.
This can never happen again.
The story of U.S. soldiers changing the course of World War II during the Battle of Midway in June 1942.
For you, what did Bill Halsey teach you? For you, what did Edwin Layton teach you?
It's country over politics. That's what patriotism is.
Yeah, I think it's a good reminder. There were times, and there still can be times, when our country is a united country in spite of differences, opinion, and all the rest of that.
It's in American theaters November 8th, just ahead of Veterans Day.
At least some of the boys still want to fight.
The Japanese are planning something bigger.
So what's the target?
We believe it's Midway.
Washington disagrees.
Washington is wrong.
That wraps this week's countdown and brings us to Sally Clarkson. She is the mother of 4 and a best-selling author whose writing inspires so many. Her latest project is a children's book she wrote with her son Nathan. Their story and book is this week's Studio 5 Bright Spot. So Sally Clarkson, the book is called Only You Can Be You, and it's the second book you've written with your son?
It is. We wrote a first book called Different, the story of an out-of-the-box kid and the mom who loved him. He came to me one day. He's a kind of one of these kids with all letters, ADHD, ODD, OCD, oh my goodness. And he said, Mom, we should write a book about our story because we had so much fun and you always loved me. And so I said, well, I'll have to tell the truth, if I write this book with you. But we wrote it and we started getting thousands of letters from people all over the world about how, oh, I'm different, or my child is different, or I love it that you told your story. It encouraged me so much. So he said, okay, now we need to write a children's book, Mom. So that's how this Only You Can Be You came about.
Tell me, before we talk more about this book, what was the journey like for you as a mom with a son who's quote unquote different?
Well, I had 4 kids, and he was the third, and he just could never sit still. He had the hardest time because I didn't know that he was dyslexic. And so I thought, I need to study who he is. And I would look inside of his heart and I thought, he is a hero waiting to happen. And so one day when he was about 7 years old, he came to me and he said, Mama, I'm going to be Superman when I grow up. And he said, did you know he's a lot like Jesus? And I said, really? Well, do tell. And he said, well, Jesus came from a foreign place, a place far, far away, to come and save people and love people. And that's what I'm going to do when I grow up. So I tried to really inspire and draw out the strength, the person that he was. And he said, we should tell everyone else not to conform to a cookie cutter standard. And so we wrote this book because we thought, wouldn't it be great to lay these foundations and patterns in really young minds of children, that only you can be you, that who you are is great, that who you are is acceptable, so that they would start out with that whole understanding in their brain of the fact that God created them with their own DNA, with their own uniqueness. And so it's our hope that many people will understand how profoundly important this is to children.
Indeed, it is important. The book is new. What's the response been thus far?
I have so many people who are writing me already, saying, I need this for my grandchild and my child and for me. And so I think that all of us, broken world, we all have brokenness. We all need to know that who we are as we are is just right to the Lord.
What's faith been for you on this journey?
I feel like my faith journey became my desire to write and encourage and inspire people, kind of like this book, to say there is no performance in the Lord. We are all going to fall apart. We're all going to disappoint ourselves. I told my kids, I'm 66, and I said, when I'm 70, I'm not going to sin anymore. Someday I will be okay. But the point is, I wanted to give people a sense that who they were was the person who's on a journey. You will grow, you will mature, but don't judge yourself by your own limitations.
Sally and Nathan's book, Only You Can Be You, is available right now wherever you purchase your books. Now, before we take a break, it is time to say it in pictures. Here's your look at this week's Studio 5 Snapshot.
And I didn't fail for the same reasons why you don't fail. You work hard. It's not how you get in the door. It's what you do once you're through the door.
That's the voice of trailblazing print and broadcast journalist Gwen Ifill, who died in 2016. We're pleased to report that in 2020, the United States Postal Service will honor her with a commemorative stamp in its Black Heritage series. And here's your first look at it. And she's in great company. Golf legend Arnold Palmer is also being honored with a stamp in 2020. And that's this week's Studio 5 Snapshot. Just moments away.
You say I am loved when I can't feel a thing.
Our singing sisters have lyrics and letters to their younger selves.
Remember for a moment what it was like to be a child. You believed every story you were told. You saw a world full of endless possibilities. What stories will the world's orphaned and at-risk children believe? We believe the Bible tells the only story truly worth believing. We believe that every child should have the opportunity to dream, the chance to take challenges and turn them into possibilities, the chance to stand on the promises of God, to recognize their place in the greatest story ever told. They have their whole lives ahead of them. Theirs is a world of endless possibilities. They are looking for a story to believe. We will tell them that story. Will you join us?
Welcome back to Studio 5. Music fuels this show, and this week it is the powerful voice of Leandria Johnson and one of my all-time favorites, singer, songwriter, and choir director, Donald Lawrence. This is Deliver Me. On that musical note, we are almost out of time for this episode of Studio 5. So here's a look at something we're working to bring you come next week.
History comes to life on the big screen.
Follow that North Star. If there are no stars, just follow the river. Listen for them. Fear is your enemy. Whoa, easy now.
I'm gonna be free or die.
Studio 5 sits down with the stars of Harriet.
You have made it 100 miles to freedom all by yourself. Would you like to pick a new name to mark your freedom?
Harriet Tubman.
And opens the life of the freedom fighter, Harriet Tubman.
We'll have that and so much more for you come next week. As for the final word for this show, we're giving that to the Cimorelli sisters. Take a listen to some of the advice they shared in letters they wrote to their younger selves.
A letter to the girl I used to be. Dear 15-year-old me, you're in a strange spot.
First of all, you deserve to actually be accepted.
Stop thinking you're bad. It's a bogus belief that's weighing you down. You're good. You're full of light.
Second, stop being so scared of everything.
You will begin to find yourself and love that person. Something tightly wound in you will begin to unravel as you slowly fall a little bit in love with the tall, quirky girl in the mirror.
You are allowed to respect yourself. Don't let anybody take your joy or your confidence away from you. Your personality is a gift, not a liability.
Just be you and, maybe possibly focus on a few things other than guys.
Stop worrying about everything. Everything is going exactly the way it's supposed to.
Chill out, girlfriend, and lighten up. Stop being so hard on yourself. That's a recurring piece of advice you're going to receive throughout your late teens and early 20s, and it's going to make you tear up because it hits you the hardest out of all the things people tell you. All you need to do is have strong faith in God and yourself, bravely put yourself out there, and fight for the things you believe in.
Good luck, kid. You are going to make it.
And that is a great final word for this edition of Studio 5 and this week's look at uplifting entertainment. Until next time, make time to uplift someone around you, and then come on back. See where Studio 5 takes you next week. Bye-bye, everybody.